Hey y'all, from Spindle Mountain Mercantile, I am Heather and this is Hamlet. Welcome to our YouTube channel. I am so glad you decided to watch this video today. I noticed after I sat down and had the camera set up and everything that I got some junk going on up here. It's not really junk, it's stuff that we don't use that somebody else can use. So we're going to donate it to a thrift shop just down the road here. If only you could see what's happening over here. You hear horror stories about what's happening behind the camera in Instagram videos. I feel that. I would show you what's going on this side of the porch, but I think y'all would have to sit down and buckle up for that one. I don't think you're ready for that. I don't even think I'm ready for it. Are you ready for it? He's not ready for it either. A lot of my regular subs know that I have been challenging myself to bring in something from my storage every time I go out there to get something to work on. And I'm not talking about bringing in something just to work on. I'm talking about things that are ready to go into my booth. They might need cleaning, but they don't need a repair, or they don't need upcycled or to be flipped or restored, anything like that. Just ready to go. And then at the end of my videos, I've been showing you some of those things. Well, today I'm going to do that in the beginning of the video, because I found this really neat plate today at the thrift store. If you would rather move on to the part of my video where I give you some tutorials, skip ahead to project number 2. But for now, let's start showing you some plates with project number 1. I'm going to start by sharing with you why I think it is I like plates so much and what drew me to them to sell plates in my booth. These are some of the plates that my mama painted when I was a little girl. This one's from 1970. It has a little church, and it's a trivet, which I didn't know anything about these trivets until very recently. In fact, I have some in a box over here to my right that I just priced with my sweet husband the other day when we were getting them ready to take them into the booth. All right, here's another one Mama did. Let's see when she did this. 1969. I was 2 years old. Strawberries. This looks like something that IOD would put out, does it not? It's another trivet. And then we have a Dutch scene. So when I was a little girl, Mama had plates on our walls for decoration, and I kept some of them. This one is from 1970, and this one is also 1970. Aren't these fantastic? These I'm not selling. I would not sell these for hundreds of dollars. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe if I could do something nice for my mama, I might. This is one of the first things I made with plates for our family. The very first one just said EAT, 3 plates, easy peasy. This one says Vittles is served. It's a quote by Daisy Mae Moses, aka Granny from the Beverly Hillbillies, which, by the way, I used to watch reruns of with my mama when I was a little girl. This is my second booth where I established my first display that only held plates. I outgrew that very quickly, and for my next booth, which is my current booth, I added this plate display from Hobby Lobby. Above that, I added a lid sorter I bought at IKEA and filled it with plates as well. So I realized that selling plates is a really easy turnover to make money in a booth. I pay anywhere from 94 cents to $2 for my plates, and I have sold them from $5 to all the way over $30 each. I still have those 2 racks, and here's another picture of a different part of my booth. You can see I have plates all over the place. I'm going to show you a very typical process from when I get a plate until I put it into my booth, only this plate was a little dirtier than most. I found this at a thrift store. It has 18 karat gold trim, made in Japan. It's only $1. I started cleaning it thinking this was that amber color decoration or paint. No, y'all, this was from a smoker's house, and it was there for decades. This is just a generic magic eraser. Man, this is the stuff they need to show kids to never smoke. Y'all, that's crazy. That is just insane. I had no idea. It was a thrift store that helps with an outreach program with men who are having it rough, maybe have some addiction issues. So we're going to start donating some stuff to them. I've got quite a bit of good stuff that maybe they could make a little money on. Let's hope so. Let's pray so. Wow. That's wild. Man. Squeaky clean. Look at the difference. I don't know how to tell if Jesus is clean. Ta-da! Paid $1. Somebody's knocking at the door. Do me a favor. Open the door. Let him in. I found this cute little table that is on top of a magazine rack at a store I like to call the place that killed my wallet. My friend Keisha introduced me to it. You fill up your cart and grab whatever furniture you want. You take it up to the front and the guy tells you how much it is. This was in a huge grouping that I paid $50. I'm showing you here how you can hand sand the entire thing, but am I going to hand sand the entire thing? I really did think about telling you I was, but no, I did not. My sweet husband took it into the shop and sanded it for me. He just gave it a real rough sand. I'm telling you, the paint on the bottom was super thick. I have been wanting to do a dark and moody piece of furniture, and for that I'm using Blood Moon. And y'all, let me tell you, this is way out of my comfort zone. It would have taken hours for my husband to get this completely smooth, and that's one of the reasons I chose to make this my first dark and moody furniture piece. I felt like using colors that blend together and make it look dimensional, and then adding a mold, plus using a brush that it's an old brush and the bristles are not in great shape, so it's going to make a lot of brush strokes. I felt like those would be a great base for this project. I used a smaller brush that's also old and doesn't have the greatest bristles to do the smaller parts. For the spindles, I just went back and forth, and I eventually just started kind of going across all of them at the same time and just whacking my brush across them. And I did the same thing on the other side. I did take my brush and go up and down on those to make it smooth. And here you can see I added a second coat after the first one was fully dried. And here's what it looks like finished. And this is a little bit shocking because that's a bright purple, not what I was looking for, but that's only part of the process. For the top, I tried a new technique one of y'all taught me. I'm using liquid patina, dark and decrepit as a stain. This did work, but I think because it wasn't sanded down all the way to the raw wood and there was some of the previous sealer still remaining, it didn't maybe go down into the wood as much as I would have preferred. We thought it would scratch, so we sealed it again with some polyurethane. And I do like that anyway because it made it shiny. I sped it up so you could see the whole process. The sides of my table need some molds, and I am using Wreaths and Swags from the IOD Spring 2026 release. Instead of cornstarch, I'm using tapioca flour. I think it leaves less pock marks. I want this to be as smooth as possible. The clay I'm using is Iron Orchid Designs air dry clay. When I make continuous molds that aren't just one big flat surface, I like to use one continuous piece of clay. For the wreath, I started right in the center and just started pushing down and out with the clay. And as I got up to the parts where it was thin enough, I used my finger to rub along the micro rim, which is right around the edge. And it almost works like a knife. When the clay goes between that and your fingertip, it just cuts it right off. I continued on just pushing the clay up into the other pieces, and there's a little ribbon that comes off on both sides. I continued pushing that same piece of clay right into the ribbons. I used the micro rim to cut off the excess. And then I went over the whole thing with my fingertips and just rubbed it until the entire back was smooth. Next, I flipped over the entire piece and gently coaxed out one end of the ribbon and just helped it keep going so that none of it would tear. That cornstarch, or in my case, tapioca flour, helps the clay release from the mold. And this was a really good casting. I was pretty pleased with how it turned out. I did 2 wreaths and then 2 of the swags, and I'm using Tight Bond Quick and Thick to attach them to the sides of my table. I put quite a bit on each mold, and then I used a small brush to make sure that every surface on the back of the mold was covered with glue. I simply laid it down where I wanted it, and then I did have to adjust just the ribbons a little bit so they wouldn't kind of go off the edges. And then I painted it with the same paint, Blood Moon from Debbie's DIY, before the clay was dry. That helps keep it from cracking. I did a lot of dabbing with that because there were some little white marks where it was hard to get the paint in the crevices. I let it dry, and then I gave the entire piece another coat of Blood Moon. I let that dry thoroughly, and then I used my clear wax and coated the entire piece. I'm using a brush that I found on Amazon. In the description, I will leave a link for that. It's a set of 2. Anytime you buy something from Amazon by using my link to get there, they will give me a small compensation, but won't change your price. I used a circular motion to make sure I got as much wax as I could down into all the little nooks and crannies. I also used a small brush. I can't remember if I got any of that on screen, but I used it to dab where I wasn't sure if it had gotten some wax down inside there. I did the whole entire piece, and I did the whole thing using a circular motion. And then I wiped it down. Some places I used a straight brush stroke, and in other places I used the circular motion. I wanted it to, I just don't want it to look perfect. I want it to look old and super aged. For the spindles, I used a little brush and I went up, and I did this on any place where there was an edge. I used my little brush to make sure that the clay got up in all those little crevices. I left everything to dry on its own except for the spindles. It was really hard to wipe down the wax with the brush after I covered the spindles. So I took, I just started whacking that stuff on there to try to get it to cover those things. I did use a towel just for the spindles, and it's a pretty soft towel and it's very dry. I just wrapped it around the spindle and wiped it up and down a couple of times, and that was that. I let it dry overnight. And now for the part that really scared the britches off me. But all the girls in the retail group who responded to my queries, and Debbie Beard herself, gave me some good recommendations. In fact, that's why I did the mold. I'm using black wax. I'm doing the same method I did with the clear wax. And because I used clear wax, when I go back to pull back some of the black wax and wipe it down so it's not quite as dark, that clear wax, it makes it a blah, easy for me to say. It makes it a surface that isn't porous, so it's easier to wipe off the black wax. And I just used the towel everywhere. I did not go down into the little crevices because I want it to have a lot of depth and dimension there. I used the same different motions. Some places I went straight across and straight up and down. I didn't go across actually. I only did up and down and then circular motions. And on the sides and the spindle, I did the same method that I did for the clear wax, except every time I finished one little section, I did use my towel to wipe it down. I didn't want it to sit there for a long time because even though I have that clear wax on and the black wax is easier to wipe off because of that, I'm still scared. But now that I look back, I realize I didn't have anything to be afraid of. For project number 3, Mama's taken over.
On Wednesday, Rose's, a store in Anderson, gives 10% off to seniors. And since I happen to be a senior, my sister and I went there yesterday. It's fun to browse. You never know what you're going to find. And I've found some good things. I found this. Isn't that pretty? And I found this. I'm going to decorate that. And I found this. Isn't that nice? I'm going to have lots of fun decorating these so people will like them. I'm using Heather's favorite, Apothecary. I'm going to rough this up with 220 sandpaper so the paint will adhere better. Now I'm going to try to paint it. I had to leave in where I'm moving the camera around so you could hear what Mama said. You got to scoot everything over just a little bit. Sorry. Unless you want to use your left hand. Maybe my left hand is not usable. Sorry. It's only there for decoration. Okay. I don't think I finished all I wanted to say about Roses. I looked at all the things that I usually buy at Roses on Wednesday. I just browsed through the store and it was amazing. The things I found to make to sell. What fun. Now every week I'll go to Roses and browse around. If you add water to your brush, you get smoother brush strokes. Mama is putting the bristles right up against where the bottom of the tray meets the side. And then when she pulls back, she gently lifts the brush. When you're painting and you stop abruptly in the middle of your item, you're going to have a line and you can see where you stopped. This technique keeps it from doing that. We made sure all the brush strokes went the same direction, and then we let this completely dry. This paint is very thick and highly pigmented, and for this project, we only needed 1 coat. Because we love it and also we're completely addicted, and this is our 3rd book, Mama is once again using the new spring 2026 release from IOD called Madeliene. I have a lot of videos where I show people how to apply Iron Orchid Designs transfers. I thought instead of doing that again today, we would just sit back and enjoy watching Mama while she applies these. Many of you have mentioned how you love watching my mama's sweet hands as she does crafting. And you know what? I do too.
Mama did the fun part and she was ready to go home and take a nap, so I'm going to jump in and finish sealing her project with Debbie's white wax. Debbie's Design Diary paints are clay-based. They're water-soluble, so they must be sealed. I love the way white wax looks on Apothecary. I brushed on the wax and then wiped the entire thing down with a soft dry cloth. I let the tray dry overnight and asked my sweet husband if he could find some suitable feet for it. He grabbed 4 of these cute little barrels I found while dumpster diving at the clockmaker's auction. He cut them in half and adhered them with wood glue. We thought the colors so nicely matched Mama's transfer selection we left them as is, and we couldn't be more pleased with this sweet little tray. For project number 4, I'm redoing this little box I bought when we lived on our boat. It doesn't match our house at all, and it's kind of falling apart. So I'm going to fix the places where it's tearing apart with ram board tape, and then I'm going to put a new design on it. Full disclosure, this project and the next one were both flops from our previous video. Here's what it looks like. In the description, I will leave a link for that video so you can watch for yourself the disaster that ensued. But let it be known, I clearly understand that if you seal clay-based paints before you apply transfers, those transfers will adhere. Personally, I've never had a problem like we did in that last video. I've had little issues where maybe parts of a transfer didn't go on very well. I've never had what happened there happen. I think it was because we had a deep freeze, like 20 degrees up to 84 degrees in the same 24-hour period, about 4 or 5 times within a 2-week period. And I had these stored in my trailer. I forgot to turn on the heater, and I think that's why this happened. After we painted it with Little Black Dress and it dried, Mama chose some pretty flowers from Madeliene that she knew I would like, and they have a coordinating ribbon. She cut a couple different pieces off to make it wrap around the sides of this little box. It took her so long just to get about 1.5 inches done that we finally gave up on it. After she left, I went back and worked on it some more, and it took me a very long time. And I'll be really honest here, I didn't film it because I didn't think it was going to work. I thought, you know what, this can be thrown away or I can paint over it again. I'm not going to stress about this, but I just sat down and I don't know, I guess I watched some television while I worked on it, and it worked. It went on. In fact, one side went on quite easily. I took it outside and I sealed it with Rust-Oleum 2x Ultra Cover in gloss clear. The lid was already painted gold, so I used some of my Krylon mirror finish in gold to touch it up. It had quite a few scratches all over, and I decided to leave them because I liked that distressed look. I'm really glad I stuck with it because this little box is going to be super cute sitting on my bedside table. Project number 5 is this week's last project and last week's first project we attempted. Here is what it looked like when we left off. My son swung by the booth and grabbed another book of Lost Garden, and that's where we'll be picking up now. See what kind of damage we can do to this baby. I didn't film it. I spray painted this with Rust-Oleum 2x Ultra Cover in clear gloss. Let's see if this treats us any better than it did before. Shall we? Oh, y'all, I can already see. Look at that. You see where it's just coming off so easily. Oh my goodness. Sometimes when I fix stuff, it's pretty awesome, first of all, that I can fix it and still make something beautiful. But sometimes I feel kind of dumb doing it so wrong in the first place. Like I said earlier, I conceal things before I put the transfers on, and I know that, but I choose not to. Maybe I would feel different if I wasn't a stockist for IOD. You know, they're still not free though, so I'm not sure. In the end, I still would rather fly by the seat of my pants and not seal every piece before I apply transfers. I'm going to continue on over here on the back. I'll use something to cut this in a minute, but first I just want to make sure all of this big picture sticks. Sometimes it's hard to figure out how y'all are looking at the camera or how the camera's facing, and I have to realize not to put my big arm in the way so y'all can see everything that I'm doing over here. I was not born a YouTuber. Believe it or not, I know. I know my filming prowess has got y'all like, whoa. I cut this right here because I missed a big piece here. It was off screen, so you didn't get to see that, but we're good. I'm going to use the razor blade to cut right. Actually, I think I'm going to cut right there. You see this piece that's holding down the handle? I was going to cut around it, but I'm going to go as far as I can up on that, and I'll just cut a little piece under this leaf. I think we will go without this leaf. We're going to cut that guy out. And I'm saving it. Save all my scraps. I'll probably just add this one someplace else on this tool chest. I've moved this, so we're going to make sure we get it right in place. Like that. Okay, continuing on. I want to jump in right here because I just remembered something I forgot to say earlier. There are a lot of brush strokes in this, and I wanted that. I used one of my oldest, ickiest brushes I have that has super thick bristles. My mama, by the way, did not like that, but it's exactly what I wanted, and you'll really see them in the after pictures. I am not going to cut this part that goes up on that. We're just going to see how it lays down naturally without it. When I get over there a little more, I will. I just want to get all this first. Turn that puppy around and let's see what this looks like. Yeah, I think that we will. Now we're going to cut this. I don't think I'm going to worry about, well, yeah, I'm going to make this stop at the edge here. We'll just cut that off. So we don't have to worry about that little filler. I think I will get that piece to stick. Transferring onto curves really isn't, it's not even a thing to me anymore. And even when I first started doing it, it was quite easy because this stuff doesn't, this plastic is called a carrier sheet. It doesn't want to curve. It wants to stay flat. So when you're going around a curve, it comes off even easier, if you ask me. Okay, I'm going to burnish this with my fingers. For the rest of the toolbox, I just found pieces to put here and there. There were a few places where there was just a little stem sticking out that had maybe been cut off from where it would connect to the next page. For those, I took some pieces of little floral that I had left over, maybe some leaves that I had cut off earlier, and even little pieces of floral I cut out from the book just for this purpose. Right here, I had a place where it stopped abruptly on the sheet to carry on to the next sheet, but I couldn't use the next sheet because it was another big, huge floral bouquet, and I didn't want that. So I just found some of this little spindly pink ones and covered those up right next to it. That looks good there. Looks like it belongs, doesn't it? There were just a few more spindly pieces left on the sheet that I had been cutting from, so I decided to use those on both sides. You can see here that part of it wrapped around to the back, and for that I just found another little piece that connected to it, and I decided to leave most of the back empty. I had some little pieces that came over from the left-hand side, and now on the right it continued, and it had one little bit bigger flower, and I liked that. I liked how it just looked, I don't know, it just looked right. You'll notice I did not paint the bottom of this toolbox. I don't think I'm going to either. I left the inside just plain too. We are going to seal it though with, I believe it's polyurethane. If it, no, it's not. It's some kind of rust protectant that my sweet husband has, and I will ask him what that's called, and I will try to remember to tell you about it in the description. I added a few little missing pieces on the front where when we originally started, it didn't stick and it actually peeled up some of that paint. And I was done. Oh, I did seal the whole thing with Rust-Oleum 2x Ultra Cover in clear gloss. And y'all, I think I found something else I want to keep. Wouldn't you want to? I just want to take a moment and welcome any new viewers. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you will give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. If you check out our comment section, you will see we have the most wonderful subscribers. And to those of you who are subscribers and have come back, hi again. We're so glad you have returned. If y'all are interested in any of the products that we used for this video, you can find those on our website at spindlemountainmercantile.com. Mama made some new quilts and those are on there as well. I can't say that Mama and I aren't happy to have these projects done. They weren't the easiest, but we did have a good time making them together, and we also learned. We learned a lot with these projects. And I kind of think that without the mistakes, they wouldn't have turned out as good as they did. In general, I think the projects that Mama and I and my sweet husband make are a lot like life. We're born messed up, and somebody comes along and saves us. And it still can be really hard, and we still can make a lot of mistakes, but we can enjoy that journey, and we can have something to look forward to that's even better in the end. That's all for today's video. Thank you again for joining us. Until you see us again next time, we hope you have a wonderful week. And as always, we hope you are blessed. Bye.